Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to the another Hindu news analysis session. I'm Shyam Kaggod here, taking up today's discussion. If I'm audible and visible for all of you, please give the confirmation. Those present in the session, can you please confirm that I'm audible and visible for all of you? Great. Thanks a lot. So let's start the session. In today's Hindu newspaper analysis discussion, I've taken a total of 13 articles. 11 of them are from the daily edition of Hindu newspaper, and two additional articles I've taken from the Press Information Bureau. In addition to this, I will also give you a homework from an article that I've taken from Indian Express editorial page. Wait for that. Now, before I start, here is a very important announcement. Right now, the Unacademy IAS courses are available at a price of 19,999. Those interested in enrolling, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Once you enroll, you will get access to the live and recorded sessions, the prelims, mains test series, mentorship services, reading material, and the current affairs program by the name of Unacademy Current Affairs Navigator. And when you're enrolling, use the code IAS English to get the discounted price and also get an extension of up to 6 months free of cost. Let me begin the discussion. And before that, I know a lot of you are beginners who have started preparing for the subject, or let's say the UPSC examination for 2027-2028 from the subject of Indian economy. Starting today, I'll be taking free sessions, special classes on the Unacademy platform starting at 5:30 p.m. So starting today, for the next 10 days, I'll be taking the special classes. These are the topics that I'll be taking up. For example, today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, the exercise that we will be conducting in the special classes is that I will bring articles from different newspapers. I'll give you those articles, read those articles, and tell me what are the important points. Then I will tell you how you should have made notes from these articles, how to extract information. This is purely for the beginners as well as those people who find it very difficult to make notes, which will be useful for your revision. So in addition to this, these are the other topics that I'll be discussing and the subsequent dates as well. Right? All you need to do is scan the QR code. You'll be taken to my Unacademy profile and hit on the follow button. Whenever these classes will start, you will get the notification button. Now let me start the discussion. Sovereign AI for India's strategic future. In the last couple of months, there has been a lot of discussion in the context of artificial intelligence. Just like many countries have weaponized, let's say, export of technology, export of critical minerals, export of fertilizers. Now there's a trend across multiple countries where they are trying to weaponize the access to the artificial intelligence. There is no doubt in the fact that artificial intelligence is here to stay. It will have a larger impact on everyday lives of all of us, but more importantly, it will have an impact in terms of national security, economic productivity, etc. Now, in this particular context, the access to the latest language models of Anthropic, for example, the Mythos 5 and Fable 5. The US president has issued a notification, has issued an executive order. According to this executive order, the access to the latest AI languages has been barred, has been prohibited for other countries. It will be available only for the USA now. That's the first very important point to note. Second important point is, unlike the earlier practices of the US government or USA administration, now the government of USA is thinking of making investments or having certain ownership in these kind of AI technologies. I hope you understand the importance of this. Traditionally, if you look at the USA government, they have been following more of a capitalistic model or model of capitalism, where the government ownership will be very less. It will be basically the private sector which will be allowed to invest, which will be allowed to develop technologies, which will allow to earn profits, etc. But compared to the earlier practices, now the government of USA, and this is not just in case of Anthropic, same kind of, right, let's say the outcome has been observed in many other instances as well, including the foreign investments. So the government of USA now wants to have certain percentage of ownership or certain percentage of profits which are generated by these kind of companies. And the third very important point in the notification was that whenever the new language models of AI will come into the market, before the access is given to other partners, first 30 days the access will be given to the government of USA. That is the US administration. So this kind of a notification has been issued, but important for us. Let's talk about UPSC. What is important for us? Important is we need AI because this is the latest technology that is available. We do not have sovereign AI in India. Although government of India has proposed a model of sovereign AI, we are yet to develop the sovereign AI to the extent of the technology that is available, let's say in China, let's say in case of European market, or even for that matter, the USA market. So this kind of AI technology accessibility can be weaponized by other countries now. So what is the solution to all of this? The problem is very simple. The writers simply say that government of India right now has a policy which is slightly confusing for the companies. Which is slightly confusing. Confusing in the sense, on one side, the government of India wants to achieve high growth. Correct? India wants to become one of the largest economies in the world. We want to make Indian economy worth $5 trillion. We want to become the third largest country in the world in terms of GDP. This is one objective. At the same point of time, we also have the objective of attaining Atmanirbharta. Atmanirbharta, self-reliance. The problem here is you want to achieve high GDP. In that particular case, you will have to be dependent on certain types of imports. Everybody is okay? You'll have to be dependent on certain types of imports, especially latest technology. You'll have to be dependent on critical minerals. You're dependent on certain important raw materials, capital, etc. So when you simply say on one side you want to achieve self-reliance and at the same point of time become the largest country in terms of GDP in the world, it is slightly, right, basically not making sense in terms of both of these objectives. You want to achieve high GDP, you are import dependent. But at the same point of time, you impose restriction, you impose high tariffs, you announce a tariff as well as non-tariff barriers in order to import certain technology, raw materials, etc. So this is basically the dilemma that the companies are facing right now in case of India. If you want to achieve sovereignty in terms of, let's say, if you want to achieve, right, let's say high powers, if you want to gain dominance in the global market, etc., then there is a need to have a balance between both of these. Is it okay? There is a need to have a balance between both of these objectives. For example, in case of artificial intelligence, should we focus on achieving self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, have our own artificial AI models in India? Of course, yes. It is high time that we start investing and develop these kind of models. But at the same point of time, we also need to be mindful that until and unless we achieve self-reliance or the dominance, we have to be import dependent. We have to be dependent on certain kinds of services or the technologies which are supplied to us, which will help the companies leverage the technology, achieve high productivity, improve national security, etc., etc. Done? So what are the important points in this particular context? Please don't write it down. Whatever important points are there from the article, I've listed for most of these articles. All you need to do is, after the session is over, the same PDF will be uploaded on the official Unacademy English IAS Telegram channel. All you need to do is download this particular PDF. So India needs to invest more and more in R&D. That's a first very important point. India needs to invest more in research and development. Again and again, we keep on talking about R&D investments in India. Because when you compare R&D investments in India with, let's say, rest of the world, Take for that matter USA, or for that matter China, South Korea. As a percentage of GDP, these countries spend a lot more. Whereas in the context of India, the gross expenditure on R&D is somewhere around 0.6 percentage of GDP. Of course, yes, the absolute expenditure has increased. Absolute expenditure in a span of a decade has increased from more than 60,000 crore rupees to more than 1.2 lakh crore rupees. But whenever you compare the countries, you compare it as a percentage of GDP, not just absolute expenditure. So, in this particular situation, when you dissect the numbers, another important problem is you find that the investment from the private sector is very, very less in India. For example, in today's article itself, it says when you take the private expenditure in research and development in India, total amount, and you compare that with anthropic expenditure in R&D, the anthropic company is spending huge sums of money, many times higher compared to the total private sector investment in India. In fact, last year, during one of the startup Kumbh Melas or Mahakumbhs, etc., there was a statement that was given by the Minister for Trade and Commerce. Mr. Piyush Goyal stated that the investments in the artificial intelligence, or else cumulatively all of these technologies are called as deep tech. I'm pretty sure all of you have come across the term deep tech. Cumulatively, the private sector investment in the deep tech is very less in India. The private sector startups are very less in India in case of deep techs. When you compare this with, let's say, Taiwan, when you compare this with, let's say, China, there the investments as well as the startups which are doing a lot of R&D expenditure, developing patents, developing new technologies, etc., are very, very high. So there is a need to promote deep tech technologies in India in order to achieve sovereignty, in order to achieve the reduction in the import dependence. So what is the way forward? One, we need to have the whole of government approach. What do you mean by whole of government approach here? Generally it is seen, I'll take one example here. In case of R&D, generally it has been seen that the kind of technology that is required to conduct R&D in India, it is not available. Now, obviously, the companies or the research institutes, universities, etc., would want to import this technology or the machinery from rest of the world. But in order to import this, first and foremost, they will have to take, in many cases, the approval from the government authorities. Now, in many cases, the government will delay providing the approvals. The government will not provide the approval, cancel the application or reject the application, stating national security as a bigger threat here. So there is a need for these particular ministries, for example, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Science and Technology, etc., to have coordination with each other in order to ensure these kind of inputs which are required, the approval is eased, the approval is given faster, etc. This is the first very important recommendation. Second very important recommendation is whenever investments have to be done, let's say in large value projects, there is always a risk. No doubt, there is always a risk. Risk in the form of, let's say, the external factors having an impact on the revenue generation potential of the company, or let's say the domestic factors which will have influence over the revenue potential. For example, if you want to set up a manufacturing facility, you require land. Is there a risk associated with acquisition of land in India? Of course, yes, there is a huge risk. Now you're importing something from external market. What if rupee depreciates suddenly? You have decided to import a machinery. When you decided, the value of exchange rate was $1 is equal to 95 rupees. And when you're about to pay the money, suddenly the exchange rate for Indian rupee will depreciate and fall to, let's say, 96.5 rupees. Of course, on the face of it, some of you will simply say, sir, it is hardly 1.5 rupee depreciation. But when you are importing machinery worth 100 million, machinery worth, right, let's say 1 billion. You have borrowed, let's say 2 billion, etc. Or under the ECB, maximum 1 billion. When you convert all of these into larger numbers, the rupee value that you will have to spend extra, that you will have to end up spending more, will be much, much greater. And that can be the basic difference between a company earning some amount of profit and the company incurring losses. So there are a lot of risks which are associated with the company's operation. Company alone cannot handle all these risks. So there has to be certain assistance provided by government. Best example, in case of the current situation, the amount of rupee depreciation that is happening, in order to control the rupee depreciation, the government of India, Reserve Bank of India have agreed to undertake certain cost, undertake certain expenses in order to bring in more and more dollars into India. For example, under FCNRB, under ECB, etc. So there is a need to ensure that the government will come to the rescue, provide certain comfort, relief to the companies, so that when they invest huge sums of money, some amount of risk is borne by government of India. And finally, have a look at this. The government can provide you an environment to operate. Government can ensure, right, let's say it is very easy for you to get the approvals, but heavy lifting has to be done by private sector companies. There is no other option. The private sector companies will have to come and invest a lots of money, invest huge sums of money. And in the current affairs, I hope all of you know this. If not, listen to me now. The government of India in the last couple of years has taken multiple reforms. If you want to talk about only artificial intelligence, take the example of deep tech startups. R&D, I'm sorry, RDI, RDI initiative of Government of India. So for deep tech startups, definition has been relaxed. The government has announced 1 lakh crore worth of right initiative to promote R&D in India. So government of India has taken reforms, but the private sector investment has been lagging behind in India. So private sector, rather than looking at right very narrow, right, let's say objectives. For example, lot of times private sector is more worried about the tariff announced in USA. The startups are more worried about whether they are going to get access to, right, let's say certain other countries under the trade agreements, etc. The private sector companies are more oriented towards investing in easy businesses, etc. The focus should be on investing in deep tech startups as well. So these are some of the recommendations that have been provided in the article in order to reduce import dependence, become more self-reliance at the same point of time. Done? Everybody is okay? So based on the discussion, here is a question for you to practice mains answer writing. The global AI race is increasingly being driven by strategic competition rather than market forces. Discuss the implications for India and suggest a policy response. Now this you can easily write taking the points that we have discussed so far. Like I said in the beginning, I will also give you one homework because you need to start reading comprehension. You need to understand bigger paragraph. You need to understand how to write basically contract or basically reduce the information and expand the information according to the requirement. So this is your homework. I've taken one article from the editorial page of Indian Express. I'm not discussing this because the article is very easy but important at the same point of time. Very often when there is a discussion on research and development investment or expenditure in India, the focus is on the current issues. The focus is on brain drain. The focus is on the government assistance, etc., etc. But there was one article or opinion, right, article that was written by V. Ananta Nageswaran. For those of you who do not know who the person is, he is the Chief Economic Advisor. Chief Economic Advisor. His arguments are, yes, there are certain factors in the current situation which are contributing to low investment in R&D. But these are not the only factors. There are cultural issues in India. There are systemic issues in India. These kind of systemic as well as the cultural issues have held back the investment in R&D. So very nice article. A lot of important information has been provided. This is the homework for you. Download the PDF, read the PDF or read this particular article and attempt this particular question. And this can be a straightforward question asked in the UPSC mains examination itself. Lower investment in R&D has underlying causes which are systemic and cultural. I've taken the heading and converted that into, right, let's say question. All of you will undertake this exercise. Please do let me know in the chat section. Will everybody take up this particular exercise or not? Now, let's move on to the next article. Fiscal tightrope for state governments. The fiscal tightrope basically, or this article discusses what are the problems in terms of finances of the state governments and compared to China. Your favorite comparison, by the way. Compared to China, how is that the state or local authorities in China are able to invest more compared to state governments or local administration in India? What are the important points? Listen to me very carefully. And don't worry, whatever are the important points in summary, I've given these, I've typed it, you can download and refer to them. Let's start. You have central government, you have state governments. Now, according to the constitution provisions, most of the taxes are collected, important taxes by the way, are collected by the central government. So if you take the amount of revenues that are collected compared between the center as well as the state, you will see that the central government will end up collecting 60% of the total revenues in India, and the state governments will end up collecting around 40% of the total revenues. So in what way they will collect revenues? For example, central government will collect income taxes, right? It will collect corporate taxes. It will collect CGST, excise duty, customs duty, etc. And the state government, most importantly, I'm talking about own revenues. State government has right to impose SGST, it will collect that. It has certain local taxes, it will impose, collect that. It also has sales taxes in certain cases, impose and collect it. But the fact of the matter is that most of the revenues collected between the center as well as the state goes to the central government. And that is the precise reason we set up Finance Commission, and based on the recommendations of the Finance Commission, the tax devolution is done between the center as well as the state. But the problem doesn't stop here. The problem is because of another very important data point. When you look at the total expenditure done in India, hardly around 45% of the total expenditure is incurred by the central government, and remaining 55% of the total expenditure is incurred by the state governments put together. So there is a disparity. No doubt, center will allocate certain amount of funds from the divisible pool of taxes based on the recommendation of the Finance Commission. Right? For example, the 16th Finance Commission has recommended that from the divisible pool of taxes, divisible pool means whatever taxes have been imposed and collected by the central government, excluding cesses and surcharges, put together are called as divisible pool of taxes. From that, 41% of the funds shall go to all the states put together. This is basically how the devolution formula is being implemented right now. But let's go to the next point. State governments, the focus is on the state governments here. Although the article discusses at certain instances only two state governments, Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu, or Keralam and Tamil Nadu. There are points which are generally applicable for all the states. Let's focus on that. The states, in case of India, will impose and collect taxes. I told you that information earlier. In addition to that, there are other sources of revenue that the state government will collect the, right, let's say, money from. The problem is the money that is there with the state government is not sufficient to take care of all the expenditures. And there are certain, somebody is saying mic is not operating. MIC. MIC, does it mean mic or something? Is there a problem? Please do let me know. Is there a problem? No, right? Okay. My dear Bhavya, please hit the refresh button. Please hit the refresh button. Mic is operating perfectly fine from my side. It is correct from my side. Please hit the refresh button from your side. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. So the problem here is when you look at the expenditures of the state government mainly spends money on agriculture, it spends money on education, healthcare. And these particular expenses will have a direct impact on the common man. It will have a direct impact on the common man. So there is the stress on the finances of the state government. No doubt there's a stress on the finances of the state government. So what is being discussed in that particular context? You want the state governments to spend more money, develop infrastructure, provide social welfare, right? Ensure there is growth as well as development at the same point of time. But when you make a comparison between the local authorities in India and the provincial authorities in China, you will realize that there are a lot of constraints regarding how the finances can be collected, where the money can be spent, how the money can be borrowed by the states in India compared to that of China. For example, let's start discussion now. Let's decode all these points. For example, starting with how can the state government borrow from the market? You have the bonds which are issued by the state government, and the name of that is SDL. These are called as SDL, State Development Loans. Right? The state development loans are issued by the state governments and they borrow from the market. The problem is the state development loans will carry a higher rate of interest. They carry a higher rate of interest. The states pay a higher rate of interest when they borrow from the market. And when you compare that with, let's say, the provincial governments in China, when you compare that with the local authorities in China, they borrow at a rate of interest somewhere around 2%. Whereas in case of India, it is in the range of 6%, it is in the range of 5.5%, 7%, etc. I'm saying it is in the range because this rate is not constant. It keeps on fluctuating from one time to another time. So first problem is the cost of borrowing for the state governments in India is very high. Second, the provincial authorities there basically borrow huge sums of money from the banking sector. They borrow huge sums of money and they will also get access to the funding from the, right, let's say the Communist Party from the center. They will get a lot of funds from the party. And that basically contributes to huge investment that is done in the development of infrastructure. In case of India, there is comparatively lesser access to these particular local authorities from the bond market, right? Different types of bonds, for example, muni bonds are there, right? For example, the access to, right, let's say the banking sector loans, and more importantly, unlike China, in India, the central government imposes a restriction on how much money you can borrow, that is as a state government. How much money you can borrow, there is a restriction that is imposed by the central government on the states. And this is according to the Article 293, specifically 293.3. Under that, the center has the right to impose a restriction as to how much money you can borrow because the state government has a liability towards the central government. Right? So these are some of the reasons why there is a stress on the finances of the state governments, local authorities in India, and compared to how much investment that is done by the local authorities or the provincial governments in China, in India, it is much, much lower. So these are some of the points which have been discussed in the article. Is everybody okay with the discussion? Here is a MCQ. I want all of you to solve the MCQ and tell the answer very quickly. What's the correct answer? Let me know very quickly. What's the answer? Nobody is replying. Anushka Singh, option A. Others? Option B. Option A, let's start. State governments issue state development loans to borrow, and these are guaranteed by the central government. Second part of the statement, it is incorrect. Does central government guarantee the STL? Absolutely no. The cost of borrowing for states is lower than that paid by the center when they issue bonds. Central government will issue bonds, state government will issue bonds. Does the state government pay lesser rate of interest compared to central government? No, it is incorrect. Central government has more credibility. Right? That is the precise reason the central government will also issue bonds, but the center's cost of borrowing is comparatively much lower. Third one, the center imposes borrowing limits on the states. Yes, the statement is correct. Central government, according to the Article 293 right now, imposes how much money can be borrowed by the state governments. So right option for the question will be option A, only one. Can we move on to the next article? A small article has been provided in the context of Index of Industrial Production. Very recently, the Index of Industrial Production data for the month of April was published. And that particular data comes out to be 5.1% for the month of April. And compare this with for the month of May. For the month of May. And compare this with the previous month, that is the month of April, the Index of Industrial Production reported was 4.9%. So now there is a debate. If the Index of Industrial Production has performed well, it means there is higher production that has been achieved by the Indian economy. There is a higher production. Now, this particular higher production is on account of India exporting more to the global market or on account of higher consumption in the domestic market. Is everybody able to understand? Do let me know. Higher consumption in domestic market, that is, the production is done in India. Now the debate is the production higher because you are exporting more or because the consumption is higher in the domestic market? This is a very important debate for a simple reason. The government of India for the last couple of years, not just months, for the last couple of years, has been undertaking multiple reforms, one after the other, in order to prop up, in order to increase the demand for goods and services in the domestic market. The argument behind that is ultimately, whether you export or you consume in the domestic market, ultimately GDP will increase. But when you are exporting more and more, you are too much dependent on the external market. If there are certain fluctuations or the disturbances in the external market, your exports will be hurt. And when your exports are hurt, you are too much dependent on the external market, your GDP will also be affected. For example, the government of India has made certain changes in the income taxation. It has rationalized the GST structure. It has announced, after the government of USA announced a tariff, government of India also has announced that we will bring in more relief measures in order to boost the production as well as the consumption in the domestic market. So what is the right outcome then? What is the actual, right, let's say, result? The argument is very simple. When you look at the GST numbers, goods and services taxes, when you look at the GST numbers, because the GST is mainly representing how many goods and services are purchased in the domestic market, the GST number, the growth in that is not very high. The growth has been slowing down. The increased collection of GST, right, has been slowing down. That rate is slowing down, which basically means the consumption in the domestic market is not increasing at expected rate or expected pace. And it also means we are overly dependent on achieving higher GDP by exporting more and more. And considering what has been happening in the West Asia, considering the kind of policies being announced, protectionist policies being announced in the European countries, or for that matter, right, let's say USA, the over dependence on the exports to achieve GDP might basically become a problem in India going forward. So these are certain important points which are discussed in the article here. Now, regarding IIP, all of you have read regarding this. Please do let me know in the chat section. But answer to this question as well. NSO. NSO stands for National Statistics Office. National Statistics Office. What is the answer to this question? And also tell me, have you people read about IIP or not? Very quickly, tell the answer to this question. Anushka Singh says option A. What about others? Atharva Soni, you are saying yes, sir. I presume you are saying yes to the question. Have you read about IIP? Great. If you people have read about IIP, it's good. Because IIP rebasing exercise has been conducted very recently. That's the reason I'm asking you. Shubham Kumar says option B. Priyadarshini says option A. Index of Industrial Production not by NSO. Anushka Singh, are you sure? Do let me know. Let's start. Gross Domestic Product. It is published by whom? NSO. Correct. Second one. Annual Survey of Industries by NSO. Consumer Price Index by NSO. Index of 8 core industries. Index of 8 core industries, that is ICI. Index of 8 core industries is published by the Ministry of Commerce. Ministry of Commerce. Fourth one is incorrect. Index of Industrial Production by NSO. Right, so 1, 2, 3 and 5 are correct. Right option for the question will be option D. Anushka, you are simply saying IIP is not published by NSO. Can you please check and confirm it? Please do let me know. Okay. Meanwhile, you check. Let me move on to the next article. Below normal rainfall in the month of July, current deficit 40%. Indian Meteorological Department. What is the importance of this? Listen to me very carefully. This is a time when sowing season in agriculture sector will start. Sowing season. Done? Right, that is important point. Point number 1. And in case of India, the agriculture sector is excessively dependent on monsoon rainfall. Monsoon rainfall. India receives rainfall apart from monsoon as well. But monsoon will provide huge contribution to the agriculture sector because a large chunk of cultivation that is done is essentially irrigation that is done is by using the monsoon rainfall water itself. Point number 3, when you receive or when you don't receive sufficient amount of rainfall, it's not that you don't have any amount of water. You already have constructed multiple dams. There is water which is stored in these particular dams. But when you don't receive sufficient amount of monsoon rainfall, the problem will be twofold. One, the amount of water that you have stored in the dams, a large chunk of it, it will start evaporating. And when the water levels will keep on falling down, the availability of this water for purposes, such as commercial purposes, agriculture sector purposes, household purposes, etc., the availability of this particular water will start reducing. This is exactly the concern associated with the deficit monsoon rainfall that is expected to be the outcome in the month of July. Please understand, for the month of June, the monsoon deficit is already around 40% for the month of July itself. Now it is expected that the monsoon rainfall will be right in the deficit range. It will be in the deficit range. In the below normal range. Not deficit, below normal. Below normal essentially means the long period average. The long period average in that particular number or compared to that particular number, you are getting the rainfall 90 to 96% of the long period average. Anybody knows what is the LPA for India? India, do let me know the answer in the comment section. So IMD is estimating for the month of July, we might end up having 94% of the long period average, which again means the rainfall will be much lower. As a result of this, I want you people to go through these two graphical representations. On one side, when the rainfall will be lower, the reservoir storage levels will be hurt, or the reservoir levels will come under a lot of pressure. And according to the latest data itself, please have a look at this. As of June 2025, the storage in India's key reservoirs was 26% of total capacity. 26% of total capacity compared to 33% a week ago. By mid-June, it was 33% level. Now it has fallen down to 26%. Compared to last year, which was 36%, the reservoir water levels are much, much lower. Right? So combine the evaporation with the lower water level, we are heading to a very difficult situation in the coming days, which will have a larger implication. For example, in the context of agriculture itself, now the experts are warning that India might be looking at a situation of a stagflation. Might be. Nothing is guaranteed, by the way, because there are so many other factors that you will have to consider. India might basically have to go through or basically incur a stagflation in the coming days. Anyways, in addition to this, there is also one more, right? One more issue that has been raised by many of the credit rating agencies. For example, Moody's. Their argument is with lower monsoon, the water availability in the whole economy will become lower. The availability of water will be hit. And when this will be hit, the water is used for production purposes. So the production activity will be hit. It is used in the agriculture. It will also be hit. It will increase the stress in the agriculture sector. Right, and it will also contribute to, right, let's say disruption in the supply of agriculture commodities, which can contribute to inflation. And all of these factors put together, right, there might be a higher impact on the overall GDP for countries. So that is the reason these kind of rating agencies are also simply saying, right, there might be an impact on the sovereign credit rating because of lower rainfall, which will reflect in the water stress, which will basically reflect in the water stress. Done? Everybody is okay? Do let me know. Everybody is okay with the discussion of this particular article, right? So for the month of July, the rainfall, that is monsoon rainfall, will be below normal. Already the government of India has been holding consultations with different ministries, local administration. The plans are being prepared to overcome this kind of a problem in the coming months. Next important article, Delhi government has announced EV policy 2.0. This is important for a simple reason. Every year in the month of October, November, December, every year, by the way, you will keep on coming across articles associated with rising pollution levels in the Delhi region. Right? Every year, small reforms, temporary reforms will be undertaken by the Delhi government. The discussions will be held or hearing will be conducted by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court will also say the same thing, come out with long-term reforms. Please don't give me a band-aid, right? Implement a surgery reform, etc., etc. So in that particular context, this new policy of the Delhi government will be very important for you. And I hope you understand, use this as a case study to argue in the context of what kind of reforms can be implemented by other state governments, what kind of reforms can be implemented in order to reduce import dependence of fuel, etc. So this article is not just associated with ecology and environment. It can also be talked in the context of international relations. That is, how can you reduce import dependence as well as economics. So the Delhi government has come out with EV policy 2.0, which will be implemented till end of March 2030. It is expected to come into force very soon and will be implemented till the end of March 2030. Now, what are the important points? Earlier, the AAP government, Aam Aadmi Party of Delhi, right, or basically which had formed the government in Delhi, had announced the EV policy, which was announced back in the year 2020. It expired in the year 2024. Now the Delhi government has announced EV policy 2.0. EV policy 2.0. What are the important points under EV policy 2.0? Let me explain this. I'll go back to previous slide. Don't panic. The Delhi cabinet has approved this particular proposal, wherein the allocations are over 7,000 crore rupees and total investments incurred will be around 15,000 crore rupees. According to the latest policy, after certain number of, right, let's say months or after certain number of years, the Delhi government will not accept the registration of any vehicle apart from electric vehicle. For example, from the 1st April 2027, right, the electric three-wheelers and N1 trucks, only the registration of this will be allowed. And from the 1st April 2028, the two-wheelers, if you want to register the two-wheelers that you want to purchase in Delhi, it has to be electric vehicle only, which essentially means what? After, right, let's say after 1st April 2028, the vehicles that will be sold in Delhi, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, right, etc., these vehicles will have to be only electric vehicles. Is the point clear? Again, I'm saying after 1st April 2028, the vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and certain types of trucks, the registration will be allowed in Delhi only if it is an electric vehicle. Right, sir? Why? Why are we targeting only two-wheelers? Why are we targeting only three-wheelers? Why not bring in four-wheelers also? The reason behind this is very simple. When you look at the total pollution that is caused in Delhi and find out the majority of the pollutants or the emissions are caused by whom? Around 80% of the total pollution in the transportation sector will come from the two-wheelers, the three-wheelers, as well as certain types of commercial vehicles such as certain types of trucks. Around 80% of the pollution. And not just this, the two-wheelers contribute highest in terms of PM 2.5, PM 10, sulfur dioxide, as well as carbon monoxide emissions. Three-wheelers largest contributors of volatile organic compounds, and the buses contribute highest emission of nitrogen oxides. So that is the precise reason the Delhi government now has come out with this particular policy where scrappage of old vehicles will be promoted, incentivized. When you purchase two-wheeler EVs, three-wheeler EVs, right, let's say the N1 type of trucks, you will be incentivized. Right, and the government also has basically identified the nodal authority. Transport department will be the nodal agency for the implementation of this. Right, so these are certain very important points. And in the context of buses, please remember, school buses especially, the government simply says once the policy is notified, in the next 2 years, right, certain percentage of the total number of school buses, that is at least 10% of the total school buses used in Delhi, they will have to convert that, that is they will have to replace this with electric buses only. Right, there is also provision in order to keep a track of, right, the batteries, so that the batteries are used, again recycled, right? So all these particular provisions have been announced by the Delhi government, which will have a large impact on controlling the pollution in Delhi. This is a long-term reform. Mind you, this is a long-term reform, not a short-term reform. Everybody is okay? So these are certain very important provisions associated with the EV policy 2.0 announced by the Delhi government. Now please answer this particular MCQ very quickly. All of you, please answer to this particular MCQ. The union government has set up a target of achieving 30% EV penetration by 2047. EV penetration in India is twice the global average. Is twice the global average. Which of the statements are correct? All of you, please do let me know the answer very quickly so that I move on to the next article. The union government has set a target. Most of you are not answering. Why? Sleeping? Wake up then. Answer to the question. Union government has set a target of achieving 30% EV penetration by 2047. This is incorrect. Does the government have a target of 30% penetration? Yes, but this is not by 2047. This is by the end of 2030. By the end of 2030. Right? EV penetration in India is twice the global average. This is also incorrect. Global average of EV penetration is 17%. In case of India, EV penetration right now is 8%. And from where have I taken this particular data? This is according to the Niti Aayog report, which was published very recently in the context of electric vehicle promotion in India. So both the statements are incorrect. Right option is option D, none of the above. Next article. Right to a lawyer. SC in an earlier judgment has issued an order stating that According to the provisions, according to the articles in the Constitution of India, every accused, every accused has the right to get access to a lawyer. Now, why is this being discussed in the current affairs? The discussion is happening because of the allegations of misappropriation of the funds or embezzlement of the funds from, right, let's say the collections that have been done in Sri Ram temple. Right, in the Ayodhya temple, there is an allegation. Of course, allegations right now because the FIR has been filed, final judgment is yet to be issued. So the allegations are that lot of funds, the embezzlement has happened. In that particular regards, the state government of UP had set up an SIT. SIT has submitted the report. FIR has been filed. Multiple people have been arrested under, right, let's say provisions cited under the FIR. And please understand the investigation is taking place right now. At the same point of time, the Ayodhya Bar Association came out with a statement and stated that none of the lawyers from this particular bar will provide legal representation to the accused in this embezzlement case. Very simple, right? This particular bar passed a resolution and stated that none of the right lawyers who are registered in this particular bar will be representing or will be providing legal counsel to the accused in this particular embezzlement case. Is it legal? The Supreme Court judgment that has been issued back in the year 2010 says any kind of orders or resolutions which are passed by the bars or the bar associations, these are illegal in nature. Please remember, back in the year 2010, there is already a judgment which has been issued. And this particular judgment was in case A.S. Muhammad Rafi versus State of Tamil Nadu. The case there was very simple. Back in the year 2006, there was a fight, altercation between police as well as lawyers. And the matter went to the court. And the Bar Association basically passed a resolution and stated that none of the lawyers in this particular bar will be giving counsel or legal representation to the policemen. The matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in the year 2010 has issued a directive or an order stating that these kind of resolutions are illegal in nature. So is there a Supreme Court judgment? Yes, please remember that. Second, there is also code of conduct, standards of professional conduct and etiquettes, which has been issued by the Bar Council of India. According to the rules which have been mentioned in this particular code of conduct, it requires that an advocate is bound to accept any brief unless special circumstances justify this kind of a refusal. Right? So there is a code of conduct as well. In fact, remember the third point as well, there is a directive principles of the state policy. That is under Article 39A. Under Article 39A, it basically directs the central government or the government of India to ensure that there is a legal representation for every accused to fight a case. The economic barrier should not be a barrier for access to the legal counsel for anybody accused to get fair justice or fair legal delivery in India. Everybody is okay? So there are three instances, or these are the three very important points in the context of the Bar Council, or let's say the access to legal aid being cut off or denied by the lawyers in India. Now, next important article, Criminal Justice System's digital push aims for full rollout by next year. What are the important points? In order to ensure there is efficient legal justice, or let's say the justice system functions very efficiently, the government of India has proposed the ICJS, Interoperable Criminal Justice System. This ICJS basically brings together, creates harmonization in 5 very important pillars which will work together in order to ensure there is efficient criminal justice delivery. These particular 5 pillars are essentially the police system, the courts, prosecution, forensic, and the fifth one, prison system. Right? Until now, or until this kind of a interoperable system was announced, we had e-courts. We had e-courts, a digital system. We had, right, a crime and criminal tracking network system in the case of police work. We have e-prosecution. We have e-forensics, etc. So under the ICJS, the idea is simple. We will connect all of these particular digital pillars, and we will ensure there is a digital system from the point of filing an FIR, filing all the documentation, to the point of, let's say, issuing a judgment by the courts. Now, this particular ICJS has been implemented. It is being implemented. That is the second pillar. The ICJS first phase was already implemented. Right now, we are implementing the second phase. And by the end of this particular year, the government has stated that the complete implementation or the rollout of this particular system will be done. And that is the reason from January 1, 2027, all the procedures which are related to investigations that are conducted by the police. And there are certain instances, for example, according to the latest laws, BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, if there is any, right, let's say any case where the possibility of sending a particular person to jail is for at least 7 years, 7 or more than 7 years. In such cases, forensic investigation have to be conducted, right? So any kind of investigations conducted by these kind of authorities, all of these documentation now will have to be done online, so that the whole process will become seamless, smooth, and right, the documentation burden will be very less, or the physical paperwork will be very, very less. This is expected to make the system, criminal justice system, much more smooth in the coming days. But having said so, there will be certain challenges that the government of India will have to address. And when I say government of India, this system is being implemented by Ministry of Home Affairs. Please remember, MHA. There will be certain challenges. For example, you want to conduct certain investigation, file documentation, etc. You need to have, right, superior, or let's say stable internet connectivity. The access to this kind of connectivity in northeastern parts of India, in rural parts of India, it will become a problem or a constraint. You need to train everybody that is involved in this particular system, that is a stakeholder, be it, let's say, advocates, be it policemen, be it the forensic department personnel, etc. You need to provide training for all of these particular people as to how these systems can be utilized. You also need to ensure once these particular systems will get integrated onto the same platform, there will be synergy and there is no disruption when you want to move from one system to another system. So there will be a lot of challenges going forward in order to ensure that the ICJS will be implemented smoothly and also performs efficiently. So these are certain very important points in the context of the new system that has been proposed and is being implemented. Now, let's solve the question. The ministry and the nodal authority responsible for the implementation of interoperable criminal justice system are Ministry of Law and CERT-In respectively, Ministry of Home Affairs and NCRB respectively, Ministry of Social Justice and NIC respectively, Ministry of Law and NCRB respectively. This should not be very difficult for you. Already I've told you the answer. Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal ministry and the NCRB is the nodal authority. Right option for the question is option B. I generally ask you people to answer the question, but you people take a lot of time. So I am only answering. I am only preparing question. I am only answering the questions, by the way. Okay, next important article. New FCRA portal and e-OCI card launched. Right? The Minister for Home Affairs as well as the Minister for the Cooperation, Amit Shah, launches new FCRA portal. Now under FCRA Act, Foreign Contributions Regulations Act, I'm pretty sure you people have come across FCRA Act very, very recently. So under the FCRA Act 2010, whenever individuals in India, right, whenever there are foreign contributions that have to be received in India, registration is mandatory. Registration is compulsory. And under the FCRA Act, the government of India has mandated that the funds that are received will have to be received for certain purposes only. For certain purposes only. Right? So there is a need to keep a track of how much funds are coming into India, for what purposes the funds are being used, and right, whether the registration is taking lot of time, to make the process much more smooth, seamless, reduce the paperwork, etc. In order to achieve all of it, the government of India has now announced FCRA 2.0 portal. A new portal has been announced or launched. Under this particular portal, the objective is simple. Annually, the government data shows that more than 15,000 applications of NGOs are received. Now, all of this can be done online. All of this can be done online. Paperwork lesser, transparency will be much better, efficiency of the system will improve. Right? So portal is being hosted by National Government Cloud, Mehraj, and please remember this particular cloud system, Mehraj, because earlier system, ICJS, there also the information will be hosted on the same cloud, Mehraj. It includes features such as, right, integrated dashboard, Aadhaar based authentication, electronic signing facilities, etc. So this is a new portal which has been launched. In addition to this, Overseas Citizen of India, OCI, new E means electronic OCI card has been launched. Until now, the problem was a booklet, OCI booklet was given to all these OCIs. The problem is you need to submit lot of documentation for this. You need to have this particular booklet with you. What if the booklet is torn, booklet is lost, etc. There are a lot of issues associated with this. So Government of India now simply says, you don't have to carry this particular booklet. We will issue electronic OCI card. The applicants can complete the complete process, entire process to get the OCI card online. The existing applicants can download it. The new applicants can apply it online. Earlier, the booklet, that is the OCI booklet, was given, reissued once after every 20 years. Now, that kind of requirement will also not be there. Right? So, these are certain very important reforms that have been announced by the Government of India in the context of FCRA as well as e-OCI card. Okay? Now, next, Gulf remittances. Gulf remittances have increased in the month of April. Now, why is this article important? Whenever you talk about remittances, that is basically inflow of dollars, especially from, let's say, Indians who are working abroad and sending back the money. India is one of the largest inward recipient receiver. There is no doubt regarding that. But the concern has been that whenever there are disruptions in the West Asian market, right, a war has taken place or recession is there, right, etc. During that particular period, the amount of remittances that India ends up receiving is affected. Right? There is a concern, right, that it might go down. The best example for this is the war that took place when Iraq invaded Kuwait back in 1990s. So during that particular period, the remittances that India used to receive took a dip, took a hit. So what is the latest data showing? According to the report that has been published, monthly report that has been published by Ministry of Finance, the amount of remittances that India has received from West Asia for the month of April, in fact, has increased by 70% compared to the same time period last year. It has increased by 70% to hit $16 billion for the month of April. Done? Right? So what is the importance of this particular information? The importance is simple. According to the traditional argument, the remittances would be hurt if something, right, or there is some disturbance in West Asian market. Now the latest trend or the latest data, right, is opposite to whatever has been observed in the past. It is, they will use the term, it is acyclical. Please remember the term. The amount of remittances that we are receiving is acyclical. Acyclical in the sense what? It is devoid of any kind of connection regarding what is happening in the market in the West Asia. So this is the importance of this data. Please make a note of this. Next, Right, the latest flora and fauna number of species. Just information. According to the latest data that has been published by Botanical Survey of India as well as Zoological Survey of India, India has added a total of 709 species. 709 species to its fauna in 2025. Again, just remember the data. I'm pretty sure all of you know what is the meaning of flora as well as fauna. Okay, if you generally get confused, flora sounds very similar to flower, so understand flora means plants. Fauna, right? Fauna basically is associated with animal species or represents animal species. So it includes 483 species new to science as well as 226 species recorded for the first time in India. This particular data is important. Right, these particular details of new discoveries or records, right, have been published by Zoological Survey of India and Botanical Survey of India. And this, right, basically means India continues to have, right, a large faunal biodiversity. Right, there is a status that is given to India, that is premier mega diverse nation. Remember this. India continues to have that particular status of premier mega diverse nation. That is, the diversity of the fauna, right? The availability of fauna in India is very, very high. Done? Everybody is okay? Another just factual data point. General Dheeraj Seth on Tuesday has become the 31st Chief of Army Staff. Just a factual data. 31st Chief of Army Staff. COAS. Right? This is one more very important nugget of information. And finally, two articles which are relevant for UPSC examination but were not mentioned in the Hindu newspaper. That is from PIB. Minister of Tourism has signed MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Google India. What is the importance of this? India receives a huge number of tourists, global tourists. But the problem is when you look at how much is this particular number out of the total international tourist arrivals. According to the data that has been published by the Ministry of Tourism in the month of September-October 2025, India receives around 1% of total global tourism. 1.4% of global tourism. Okay, 1.4%. Whereas the diversity in terms of, let's say, tourist spots, the tourist attractions in India, the diversity is very, very huge. So there is a huge potential for government of India to tap and basically promote tourism. In that particular regards, it is important regarding what is the preference of tourist, especially the foreign tourist. What kind of destinations are they searching? For example, whenever you are planning for a trip in the month of, let's say, right, February, March, or especially in the month of April, especially in the month of March and April, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of you will search during the summer what is the best place to visit in this particular region. Correct? In the month of October, November, which is the best place to visit. So this is one kind of a preference. And Google has collected lot of this particular data, has collected huge sums of data regarding the preferences or the kind of services the tourists are searching for, the kind of goods the tourists are searching for in the region, etc., etc. So argument is very simple, right? The Ministry of Tourism has signed an MOU with the Google now, and it will be able to get lot of promotion that is done for India's tourism using this particular MOU, right? So that is one. Second important article in the in the PIB was UPI. UPI has gone live in Greece. With this, Greece has become the 10th country out of India where UPI is available. So other countries are Singapore, United Arab Emirates, France, Mauritius, Nepal, Bhutan, Qatar, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, and now Greece. So these are some of the very important list of the countries. UPSC has the habit of asking questions on UPI. Please make a note of it. So these are the two updates from the PIB which were missing in today's Hindu newspaper. Done? So that's it from my side regarding the Hindu discussion for 1st July 2026. If you have liked the comprehensive discussion, do not forget to hit the like button. If you are yet to join the Unacademy IAS YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. And the PDF of the PPT that I've used now will be made available in the official Telegram channel in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Please download it and do the homework. Please do the homework. That's it from my side. Have a great day. See you all tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m.